She was the last queen of Egypt, a woman so powerful that even Rome feared her. She ruled with her mind, fought with her heart, and loved with her soul. This is not just a story of gold and glory. This is the unforgettable story of Cleopatra, the queen who defied empires. Cleopatra's story. Cleopatra was more than a queen. She was a legend. She lived over 2,000 years ago, but even today, people still talk about her. Her beauty, intelligence, and powerful life made her one of the most famous women in history. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC in the ancient city of Alexandria, Egypt. But she was not Egyptian by blood. Her family was Greek. They came from Macedonia and were part of the Ptolemaic dynasty. This family began ruling Egypt after Alexander the Great's empire was divided. So, Cleopatra was part of a royal Greek family ruling an Egyptian land. Even though she wasn't Egyptian, Cleopatra loved Egypt. She was the first ruler from her family to learn the Egyptian language. She also spoke Greek and many other languages. Some say as many as 9. She studied math, astronomy, history, and politics. She was smart, well-educated, and knew how to lead. Cleopatra's father was King Ptolemy XII. When he died, Cleopatra was only 18 years old. According to Egyptian tradition, she had to marry her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was just 10 years old. They were supposed to rule Egypt together. But things did not go smoothly. The people around Ptolemy wanted him to have full power. They pushed Cleopatra out of the palace and out of power. She was forced to flee the capital. But Cleopatra did not give up. She still believed she was the true ruler of Egypt. At the same time, something big was happening in Rome. Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful Roman generals, came to Egypt. He wanted to take control of the region and settle a dispute between Cleopatra and her brother. Cleopatra saw this as her chance. But she couldn't walk into the palace freely. Her enemies were watching. So she came up with a clever and bold plan. She rolled herself up in a rug and had her servant carry it to Julius Caesar as a gift. When Caesar opened the rug, Cleopatra rolled out and stood before him. She surprised him with her courage and intelligence. Caesar was impressed. He listened to her side of the story and agreed to support her. With his help, Cleopatra returned to power. A civil war broke out between Cleopatra, Caesar, and her brother's forces. In the end, Cleopatra won. Her brother Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile while trying to escape. Now Cleopatra was queen again, but this time with full control. Cleopatra and Caesar grew close. Their political partnership turned into romance. In 47 BC, Cleopatra gave birth to Caesar's child, a son named Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. Cleopatra hoped that her son would one day rule Egypt and maybe even Rome. Later, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesar and stayed there for a while. But not everyone in Rome liked her. Many saw her as a threat, a foreign queen with too much power over Caesar. When Caesar placed a statue of Cleopatra in a temple in Rome, people were shocked. Then came a tragic turn. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by Roman senators who feared he wanted to become a king. They stabbed him in the Roman Senate. Cleopatra was still in Rome when this happened. She was heartbroken and frightened. Without Caesar, she was in danger. She quickly returned to Egypt with her young son. Back in Alexandria, Cleopatra focused on her rule. She made Egypt stronger and richer. She improved the economy, opened trade with other nations, and protected her people. She also promoted Egyptian culture, religion, and traditions, even though she was of Greek origin. But trouble was growing in Rome again. After Caesar's death, 2 men rose to power, Mark Antony and Octavian, who would later become Emperor Augustus. They divided the Roman world between them, but it was clear that a war for full control would soon come. Mark Antony came to Cleopatra for help. He needed money, food, and ships for his army. Cleopatra agreed to help him, but not for free. She was smart and used the opportunity to protect Egypt's future. She also wanted to see if Antony could be a strong partner. When Antony met Cleopatra, He was amazed by her. She met him in style, dressed as the goddess Isis, arriving on a golden boat with music and perfume filling the air. Antony was enchanted. He stayed with Cleopatra, and they became lovers. They spent months together in Egypt. They hunted, drank, laughed, and planned. Cleopatra gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Later, she had another son with Antony. Their bond was not just romantic, but also political. Together, they hoped to rule the East, while Octavian controlled the West. This new love story scared Octavian. He told the Roman people that Antony had fallen under Cleopatra's spell. He claimed that Antony wanted to become king of Rome and make Cleopatra queen. Many in Rome believed him. They saw Cleopatra as a dangerous foreigner again. Tensions rose. Rome was once again on the path to civil war. And this is where we end part 1 of Cleopatra's incredible story. In part 2, you will hear how Cleopatra and Mark Antony faced Rome's wrath, how their love led to one of the most tragic endings in history, and how Cleopatra's name lived on long after her kingdom was gone. Previously, we learned how Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, became a powerful ruler. She loved Julius Caesar, then later Mark Antony. But now, the Roman world was divided. Mark Antony and Cleopatra ruled the East, while Octavian ruled the West. Their love was strong, but their enemies were stronger. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, was angry. He believed Cleopatra had too much influence over Antony. He also believed Antony had forgotten his duty to Rome. To make things worse, Antony declared that Caesarion, Cleopatra's son with Caesar, was the true heir of Rome, not Octavian. That was the final straw. In 32 BC, Octavian declared war, not against Antony, but against Cleopatra. He wanted the Roman people to see her as the true enemy. He told them Cleopatra was trying to take over Rome with her beauty and lies. He painted her as a foreign queen who had stolen one of Rome's greatest generals. Cleopatra and Antony prepared for war. They built a great navy. They had over 200 ships, many soldiers, and powerful allies. But Octavian had the Roman people, the Senate, and a stronger army on his side. The final battle happened in 31 BC at sea, near a place called Actium on the coast of Greece. Antony and Cleopatra led their ships into battle. But things quickly went wrong. Octavian's fleet blocked them. The wind was against them. Some of Antony's commanders surrendered. Then Cleopatra made a sudden decision. She turned her ships and sailed away from the battle. No one knows why. Maybe she thought the fight was already lost. Maybe she wanted to protect her treasure. Antony, seeing her leave, made a heartbreaking choice. He followed her, leaving his army behind. This gave Octavian the victory. Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt. They had lost the war. Their armies were gone. Their allies had left them. Their kingdom was in danger. In Alexandria, their capital city, Cleopatra tried one last time to save her future. She hid great amounts of gold and treasure. She sent secret messages to Octavian, asking for peace. She even offered to step down from the throne. But Octavian had other plans. He wanted Cleopatra alive, so he could show her as a trophy in a Roman victory parade. Cleopatra knew this. She remembered how proud Caesar had been. She also remembered what happened to defeated kings and queens. They were dragged through the streets of Rome, laughed at, and sometimes killed. She would never let that happen. Meanwhile, Mark Antony received false news. He was told Cleopatra was dead. Heartbroken and full of sorrow, he tried to take his own life. He stabbed himself with his sword. But he didn't die right away. A servant ran to Cleopatra and told her what happened. She was still alive, hiding in her tomb. She quickly sent people to bring Antony to her. He was carried inside, bleeding and weak. When she saw him, she held him in her arms. There he died beside her. His last words were about her love. Now Cleopatra was truly alone. She dressed in her finest royal clothes. She wore her golden crown. She put on her best jewelry. She wanted to die as a queen, not as a prisoner. With her 2 loyal servants, she went into her tomb. There she ended her life. Some say she used poison. Others believe she let a cobra, a sacred Egyptian snake, bite her. No one knows for sure. She was only 39 years old. When Octavian arrived, Cleopatra was already dead. He was furious. He had lost his prize. But he showed some respect. He allowed Cleopatra to be buried next to Mark Antony, as she had wished. After her death, Egypt was no longer a free kingdom. It became part of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's son, Caesar, was caught and killed. Octavian saw him as a threat. Her other children, fathered by Antony, were taken to Rome. They were raised there but never ruled. And so, the story of the pharaohs came to an end. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of Egypt. But her story did not die. For over 2,000 years people have told stories about her. Writers, poets, and filmmakers have all been inspired by her life. She has been shown as a beautiful seductress, a brilliant leader, a tragic lover, and a brave queen. Some say she used love to gain power. Others say she was a victim of a world ruled by men. But one thing is clear: Cleopatra was unforgettable. She was a woman who ruled a kingdom, spoke many languages, and faced the greatest empire in the world. She was strong, clever, and proud. She lived with passion and died with dignity. Cleopatra's life is not just history, it is a legend.